So my name is Brittany Porter. I am an energy healer and a spiritual coach. And for today, we are doing 26 things that have changed my life. This is part 2. Yesterday we did part 1 and I talked about the first 13. And today I'm talking about the next set of 13. Oh, thank you, Julian. I appreciate that. And so these are all things that have helped me on my spiritual awakening journey. They've helped me with my anxiety, depression, body dysmorphia. I had an eating disorder as well. So 13 yesterday were more when I was in like a very, very low vibrational state, like right when I started my spiritual awakening journey and I went very deep within the void space in hermit mode. And so today, these are going to be a little bit different. These 13 things are more what helped me get to where I'm at right now. So a little bit deeper into my journey. Okay, I gotta fix this. It's bugged me. Okay. Okay, I just subscribed to the retreat. Yay! So excited to have you there. Yes, it's gonna be super fun. Okay, so if anybody has any questions or anything as I go along here, I feel free to put them in the comments and I'll read people's comments too. The hair is fine. I know, it's just like when little hairs like pop up. I could just like this, I hyperfixate on them. Okay, so if you want to watch part 1 of this, there's a link in my bio to go to my YouTube channel. So the first 13 set are on there. All right, so here we go. So the first one is not speaking things into existence and catastrophizing. So everybody who knows me now knows I'm a super positive, bubbly, unicorn, rainbow, sparkles person. For the most part, like I have my days where I'm not, but very positive, optimistic. That's not how I used to be though. I used to be extremely negative and always focusing on like what's going wrong in life and being very much victimization mode and saying like, oh, all these horrible things are happening to you. Okay, y'all might see my internet being wonky. And just focusing on all the things that are not going right in life. And what I found was when you focus on things like that, you get more of it. And I used to be a super, super anxious person. Like I would overanalyze everything in my life and conversations with people, worrying about, do people like me? You know, all these things. And I would go to the very worst case scenario on everything, which is normal. That's like a normal human response because from like an evolutionary standpoint, like when we were back in like cavewoman, caveman days, like it would serve you to be on like alert with everything in life because that's how you like survived, right? So worst case scenario, a tiger's gonna get you. Okay, just like the movie What About Bob Baby Steps? I'm not sure what those are. Bob Baby Steps. But you want to look at the worst case scenario, and so that's your ego. That is your ego trying to keep you safe and saying like, we have seen what has happened in the past, so we're going to pull from those experiences to predict our future. But what ends up happening is we get caught in these cycles of life, like doing the same thing over and over and over again, because it's just this, we're pulling from past and not like trying to make a different future. And so when you catastrophize, you are prophesizing things into existence. Like I learned that once I learned like what timeline shifting was and got more into that. I still tend to fall in this. Yeah, the thing is, there is a 50% chance that it will go wrong or that it will go better than you thought. Like there is just an equal of a chance. But we go with the one that we're comfortable with and we've seen because that's how we're keeping ourselves safe. But doing that, you're just like perpetuating cycles. And so I had to start saying, what if? Like, what if it goes better than I thought? And then when you do that, you're like leaving the window of opportunity open to new experiences and new outcomes. But when you say, nope, it's going to be like this and it's going to be bad and it's going to be horrible and this is what people are going to say and you're like projecting things, that will be your reality because those are the lenses that you're looking through. So your subconscious is going to affirm those things to you. That's what your subconscious does. It wants to affirm your beliefs. Like, that's its job. And so if you are backing that up with your conscious mind, the one that you can make choices with, and you're saying like, yeah, it's going to be shitty when I go to this party or this meeting, then it will. Because that's what you're looking for. You're looking to affirm your reality. It's not a oh, thank you, Lucy. I appreciate that. Thank you. Lucy, I'm going to make you a mod. Thank you. Okay. So stopping catastrophizing is kind of difficult when you have like anxiety, like real anxiety issues, or you're in depression, right? Because you're in a hole sometimes. But if you can just little bits practice with, what if it turns out better than I thought? What if it turns out like, universe, show me how good it can get. I know that's a lot of things that's like trending right now on TikTok and other places, like saying to the universe, show me how good it can get. Because you're literally like, you're at an optometrist, like an eye doctor, and when you say that, you're changing out the filter of how you see people around you and how you see experiences. Like I tell my son that all the time, because he you know, he's in school, he's in elementary school, and sometimes he'll just he's a little of an anxious baby sometimes. Not baby, but he's a young child. And I tell him, like, you really need to focus on like what could positively happen, because otherwise you're searching for something bad to happen, and then you hyper focus on it. and then it comes into fruition, because you're priming your brain to look for it. So prime your brain to say, like, sometimes you can't jump from being in a very negative, low vibration to being like love, peace, and unity, and joy, and all this stuff. Like, that's a huge vibrational jump. So instead of saying like, oh, it's gonna be a great day, okay, because when you're depressed, that's difficult sometimes. I've been there. But what you can do is say, what if it's a better day? What if something awesome happens today? What if I get a fun surprise? What if I meet somebody who's part of my soul tribe? Like, the what if will help you go from very negative low states to a neutral state, and then you can go to a higher state, right, where you're expecting positive days every day. It's kind of like when I tell people about affirmations. If you're going from like, we'll take one. Okay, so I talked about this in the first part, but like I used to hate myself. Like, I'll just be very transparent. Like, I was in a very rough place, and I couldn't go from like, I don't like myself, to I love myself wholly and completely. Like, that just, it's too big of a vibrational jump. My subconscious is not going to believe that. And so what I did do was, I am working on loving myself. That's a neutral statement. And then eventually I got to, I love myself wholly and completely. But like, where can you find neutrality in your life if you are in those lower vibrational states? And it will raise you up enough to keep going. Okay, so like with this, what if it's a better day? What if something awesome happens, right? I tell the universe, show me how great today can be. Exactly. Then you're leaving it open instead of just like going to the worst case scenario. And once you retrain your brain this way, like, your subconscious starts looking for ways to affirm to you what could be awesome. So like, it just takes practice. You just got to keep going, and it takes time, because if you're in a very low vibrational negative state, you're used to doing that. And so when you're conscious of it, like when your consciousness says, hey, we have a choice here, we can either catastrophize or we can pick the best case scenario, you have to make a conscious choice of, okay, well, I'm going to go with leaving the window of opportunity open. And then the more you do it, the easier it gets. Like now, when I start to catastrophize and I start to say, well, this could go wrong, I'm like, no, cancel that. No, we're going to think about the best case scenario and focus on that. Okay, and not saying like life is just easy peasy lemon squeezy all the time, but it can be a lot more easy when you are not catastrophizing. Okay, I used to be a negative Nancy. It helped me so much. Same. That was me, and nothing against like Nancy's. I try not to say those things anymore because I'm like, what if I'm talking to somebody named Nancy? Hey Lori, hey. Okay. I'm like, what if there's positive Nancy's? Okay, the next one is changing perspectives. Be an observer. It's all an experience. Hey Sophia, you good? Oh, hello. Okay, you said help. I was like, oh Lord. And for anybody who's watching this on YouTube, I'm doing a TikTok live right now, so that's who I'm talking to in the comments. So changing perspectives, be an observer, it's all an experience. So I used to get, when I started learning about timeline shifting, I used to be so hyper aware of all of the decisions that I was making, and my guides were like, you have to stop. you have to stop overanalyzing everything that you're doing because it's keeping you from moving forward. You're like, oh, well, what if this takes me off track, or what if this is the wrong decision? And now I'm at a point where they're like, there's no right or wrong decisions. Like, I know that sounds very esoteric, and it is, but like, life is just experience. Like, it literally doesn't matter. Like, you are going to course correct where you need to course correct if you're focused on yourself. Like, there have been plenty of times that I have gotten into something that I didn't think was very optimal for me. And I'm like, dang, I shouldn't have done this. But then now I look back and I'm like, oh, I realize I had to go through those things to get to where I'm at right now. I heard the little kid's voice for the TikTok when I typed it. Good morning, Nicole. Like, you'll course correct. It's about experience. So like, if you pick a quote unquote wrong decision, like, as long as you are working on being in your highest alignment and on your most optimal timeline, and always actively working on being your higher self, which I think most people in here are, the 38 people that are in here listening to me talk right now, you will course correct. You will say, this is not in alignment with me. Sometimes you do it faster than others, but you're not going to stay somewhere that is just going to suck the life out of you forever. And again, like, those are challenges and lessons. Like, that's part of the earth game, like, why we're here. Because it'd be super boring if everything was just like positive and happy all the time. Like, there would be no like growth or evolution, right? So even these things that we see as like negative, right? And use your discernment with what I'm saying, okay? But even these things that we see as negative are growth challenges and ways to raise your consciousness and be even more in alignment with yourself. And so like, being an observer, that's something I've had to do, because I would get so intermeshed in things that were going on around me and get so emotionally invested in people and things happening, and just like letting things ruin my day, where just now I'm just, and you know, I'm not perfect. Sometimes it's easier than others, but like, if something happens during your day, just take yourself out of the situation and just observe it. Just be like, okay, well, you know, I could either get really upset about this, or I could analyze it a little bit and say it's an experience, and then just keep it moving. Because when we get so invested in things and let them take us down, it's like climbing up out of this big hole every time. Like, you got a flat tire? Okay. Like, that sucks, but like, I'm not gonna let it ruin my day, because like, it's not gonna help anything. Like, just be the observer. Like, okay, well, maybe this saved me from getting in a wreck. I don't know. You don't always need to know why everything is happening in your life. Like, sometimes the universe is like taking care of things you don't even know about, but they like divert you, and it seems like something negative, but it's not. You don't know what would have happened otherwise. So like, just be an observer of everything. Good morning, Kate. Good morning. I'm trying to learn that with my son. He's becoming a teenager now, and that one's a little more difficult for me sometimes. I'm just like, he has his own soul contract. He's on his own journey. Oh, thank you, Sarah. That was very sweet. Thank you. He's on his own journey. He's got his own soul contract. I am here to guide him, but he's got his own team of guides, and like, I can't micromanage everything. Like, because he's gonna do what he wants to do. My dad says it has a solution, don't worry, and if it doesn't, don't worry. Yeah, like Hakuna Matata. Right, Hakuna Matata. Okay, next one. Put myself first and fill my own cup. So this is one that has been a long journey for me, because I used to put everyone and everything above my own self and above my own needs. And we talked about that in the first one. It's because I had like a really intense fear of being alone and nobody loving me if I didn't be a servant to everyone. Like, cool. Okay, I see more comments coming in. Okay. Is it froze for anyone else? Yeah, let me know if y'all can see me now. My internet's kind of acting wonky. Good now. Okay, thank you, Lucy. Okay, so what I was saying is, it is difficult for us empaths sometimes, because we always want people to feel loved and comfortable and safe and like they're heard and seen and validated, right? And like, that's great. That's a beautiful gift. It's a blessing. But if we're not focusing on self, we're running on fumes in an empty cup, and we're not actually helping people to our best capacity. And that's one that I like really struggled with over the years of, I have to put myself first. Like, even being a mom, like, I cannot parent unless I am at my most optimal state, right? And so I heard this metaphor like a long time, and it's always stuck with me. Like, if you're in an airplane and the airplane's going down, whose mask do you put on first? Do you put on yours, or do you put on somebody else's? Because if you don't put yours on first, you can't help anybody else. And so filling my own cup, yes, so draining to be a mom when your cup is empty, yeah. And then you get into like mega burnout phases, and it's in that kind of snowballs, and then you start getting, you know, real anxious and stressed, and then it starts compounding, and you're just, like I said, running on fumes. So like, I very much value my self-care and my alone time. Like, I have to carve out things that I want to do and fill my cup back up. Like, I've really had to work on making that a priority, and it has significantly changed my life because I'm way more energized. I used to be at a point where if I laid my head down at any moment during the day, I would fall asleep because I was so incredibly exhausted all of the time. But I literally wasn't taking care of myself. I didn't make time for the things I want to do, or fun things, enjoying things. Like, I just basically wasn't enjoying life. I was just doing things for other people, and it wasn't their fault. Oh, thank you, Kate. Thank you. It wasn't their fault. Like, that was me allowing that to happen because I didn't see enough self-worth within me to take care of me. So I cannot stress that enough. Like, self-care is so important. And carving out time for yourself and making yourself a priority. Like, your life will completely rearrange itself when you start choosing yourself. Like, that is one of the most pivotal points in my life, is saying, like, I'm going to do what I need to do for me regardless of what else is going on around me. And not like in a selfish way, right? But like, if I don't want to do something, I'm not going to do it. Or if I don't want to go somewhere, I'm not going to do that. Because you only have so much time and energy a day. Like, you literally only have so much. And helping people, like, I do that for a profession. I love helping people and supporting people. But I noticed that there was a tendency of me to overgive to people. Like, and over and over give. And like, if I'm doing that for my profession, right, and I have friends who I like love and support as well, and have a son that I take care of, and like all these things, I have to really be mindful of where I'm spending my time and energy, because things take energy. Texts take energy. Phone calls take energy. Like, there's just so many things that you're just like putting out, but how much are you actually like getting back and refueling? Embracing my sensitivity, that's another one. So I would have people tell me all the time, like, oh, well, you always overact, or you take things too seriously, or you are too sensitive, and all these things. And that was really hurtful. Like, that hurt me really deeply because I thought I was the only one. And then when I started researching about empaths and light workers and starseeds, I was like, oh, there's a whole bunch of us out here, and it's a superpower. Like, it took me a long time to realize that it wasn't a curse. It's a blessing, because you can understand people on a whole different level and support them and love them and encourage them. And we're so creative, like so incredibly creative. And we hear music on a whole different level. We experience everything on a whole different level. Like, we really, really feel into everything on a completely different scape. And it really took me analyzing other people that they sometimes don't do that. And then I started seeing it's like, oh, this is really great. And I can connect with people on a soul level this way. You're just too sensitive. Heard this all my life. I'm a big crybaby, but I realize this is a form of release. Yeah, crying's great. It's a great form of energy release, for sure. Love that. And you know, like, people that say like, oh, I don't have time to cry, or, you know, like, I don't cry and all this stuff, they're usually people that have some serious, like, emotional regulation issues going on, because they're just stuffing stuff down that needs to come up. And I'm not saying if you don't cry that you have emotional regulation problems, but I think we all know who the people I am talking about is. Okay. Next one is, my reality looks different from other people. Like, I was very nervous to get into the things that I do now, because, like, nothing against the South. I just live in a very, like, conservative town and in the South, and there's not a lot of people with blue hair. There's not a lot of people talking about fairies and unicorns and all of these things and dimensions and frequencies and incarnation and all of this stuff. And it was a lot to get into it, because I'm going to be pariahized, or I don't think that's the right term, but that's okay. Or, you know, persecuted for being in that type of reality. And I really had to look at myself in the mirror and say, I don't care. I am not going to curtail what I believe and who I am for other people's palatability. And when I do that, it's not allowing me to find the people who resonate with me or who are on the same wavelength. Oh, thank you. Glad to have you here. Bless you too. It doesn't allow you to find your soul tribe if you do that, because people don't see you. They see the mask. They see the persona that you have created for other people's palatability. And so you really have to step out and be the one. I call them rainbow sheep. After I opened up to my family, my reality changed because they opened up too. Yeah, that's the thing too. A lot of us are meant to open and expand other people's consciousness and their realities. Like, I know that I have shifted many people in the conversations that I've had with them, because I'm bold enough to say, yeah, I live in a different reality. I live in a different paradigm. Like, I'm happy where I'm at. Like, I'm not going to shift down because you don't believe in what I believe. And that's cool. Like, everybody has their own truth and values. Like, that's fine. But I'm not going to shift mine for you. Right? And it takes practice and time, learning to be confident like that, and having, you know, good self-esteem and not masking. But you find the people who are meant for you by being solid in your reality. You wanna mess around with tarot cards? Do that. You wanna talk about aliens? Do that. I have found my people by talking about the things that I want to talk about and not talking about the things that I want to. Okay. We have either believe in magic or not. This is one of my favorite things to tell people. You can choose to believe it or not. Like, if you choose it to believe in it, then it's real for you. If you don't, that's fine too. Like, that's how it works. Like, your reality is your perception and your truth. Like, I cannot stress that enough. So, like, if somebody doesn't believe in it, you cannot make them believe in it. You cannot convince them. You can convince yourself, if that makes sense. And I don't mean convince yourself like it's not real, but like, your reality is your truth, and what you want to do is true for you. Like, there is a collective timeline, right? And the more you lean into that, the more you see it, and the more you experience it as well. So, like, you have a choice, like, either do or don't. And like, one day I had to like really sit with myself with that question and say, like, am I going to go fully in, or am I going to keep one foot in the old reality door and one in the other? And I'm just like, well, I can't do that forever, so here we go. And then as soon as I made that decision of like, I'm going to believe that it's real for me because I've experienced this and it's true for me, everything changed. Everything. Like, all aspects of my life. Okay. But there's collective timeline, right? There's like us all headed towards whatever that is, okay? But then we all have individual timelines. And you can either let somebody knock you off your timeline, or you can stand solid in your timeline. Your timeline's gonna look different from other people's. Like even your friends, even your spiritual friends. Like I have spiritual friends who don't resonate or believe in the same things that I do. And like, that's cool. You got your timeline, I've got my timeline. There's no right or wrong. There's no judgment. There's no above or below. But I am going to stay on my preferable timeline. Like, that's it. I've had some people that are so, and this is not a judgment thing because this is me too. I've had some people around me that are so steeped in fear-based realities and have tried to sway me over into that timeline. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I am living on a timeline where we are all headed towards a beautiful, beautiful reality together in the higher dimensional planes. And it's not going to be like this. And we're not going into the apocalyptic season. That's not my truth. That's not my reality. And I'm not living on that timeline. And I'm not saying for you to be on that timeline, or I'm not trying to shift yours, but just the dichotomy between those two things. And I don't see that stuff in my reality. Like I live in a completely different world. Yes, I'm slowly pushing away from fear-based Catholicism. Yeah, I just live in a whole different, because I don't choose to focus my attention on those things, right? And I'm not saying there's not horrible things going on in the world, because there are, but I'm not pointing my perception of things getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Like, there are just as many beautiful things happening in the world that are, you know, pushing us to a new reality than there are of like negative things. But if we focus on those positive things and like, okay, well, how can we make effective change? Like, not saying like just to bypass and say like, don't worry about that. But like, instead of saying like, this sucks, how horrible, like, oh my God, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? What are you going to do? Right? Focus on solutions instead of complaining, because that's two different things. The fear that we've been brought up has a strong hold, though. It is, yeah. It's really difficult in the 3D reality. So much not good out there, but it's being exposed. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm glad that you brought that up, because I heard this quote the other day, and it was saying that there's so much darkness on the planet right now because there's so much light. Like, there's so much light and goodness on the planet that's happening that it's illuminating all of the dark things that we didn't see before. And so, like, if you take solace in that, that we have to see it in order to change it. Okay, so the next one is being vulnerable. So that has been a big one for me, because I used to be, like, the ice queen of, like, never showing anyone that, like, my, you know, I'm translating for you, never showing anybody, like, my emotions, never telling people, like, what's going on in my life, even when I was going through, like, very difficult times, because I was like, that's gonna show me as weak. And, you know, I look really young already, like, even, you know, before this, before now, and I'm very, like, small stature person, and, like, just female, right? And so I always, like, had this very hard exterior to, you know, try and, you know, whatever, build these shields around me. But what I found was that was just keeping people away from me that really cared about me. Like, I'm very vulnerable with the people, you know, that I trust in and that I love very deeply on, like, a soul level. Like, I'm very vulnerable, and I'm very vulnerable now, like, with people on social media, and I'm working on being more vulnerable, because that is what people relate to, being vulnerable. Nobody wants to see people, you know, showing some persona of themselves that they have built in perfectionism, because that's not relatable, and you're not learning or growing from that. And so when I started learning to be vulnerable, I found the people who I was meant to be in alignment with, my soul tribe. And they're vulnerable with me too, and I appreciate that. I'm very honored. But talking about your emotions does not mean you're weak. And talking about not trauma dumping is a whole different thing. but not like trauma dumping on people, but like telling them when you're going through a rough time and asking for help. Like, people want to help you, just like you want to help people. I imagine that everybody that's in here watching right now, or who will watch us in the future, like, you're the type of person that loves helping other people and supporting them. They want to do that for you too. It's a gift that you're giving them. Like, let them love you. I always felt like I was a burden to people if I asked for help or like I talked about myself. They want to know, and they want to love you on an even deeper level, and being vulnerable allows that to happen. Okay. Always going to be nervous. So this has been a big game changer with me in my business. Okay, so what did I say? Oh, always being nervous. So I have been working on my self-confidence and self-esteem for a very long time. I used to have like none at all, and I realized that anytime that I want to do something new or push myself, I'm always going to be nervous. Like, always. I thought that would go away eventually. Nope. Even before I got on here right now. Like, nervous. I always get queasy. I always get sweaty. I always get the feeling of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this, or I don't want to do this, or maybe I'm not ready. It happens every single time. It doesn't matter what I do. If it's, you know, recording a podcast and interviewing somebody, want to throw up. Every time I do a Reiki live, want to throw up. Every time I get on here to do chats, want to throw up. And the pivotal point that really helped me was like, okay, well, if I'm going to feel that way anyway, then I'm just going to do it. Doesn't matter what it is in life. If I'm going to be nervous, then what's stopping me from going forward? So like, I would really ask yourself, when has there been a time when you have done something new or had a growth challenge where you weren't nervous? Like, you just got to do it anyway, because it's going to always be that way. But then you get used to it. Like, I've gotten used to it now, because I'm like, okay, well, here it comes. Here's the nerves. Here's me getting sweaty. Here's me getting nauseous. Here's me saying like, oh, maybe I don't want to do this, or maybe, you know, I'm not ready to do this. And now I'm just like, okay, well, we always feel that way, so whatever. I'm just gonna do it anyway. So Felicia, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah, it's really helped me. Like, it's really helped me. I used to like cry my eyes out before I used to do things, because my body would be in fight or flight, and I would just get so incredibly anxious, and my body would fight me on doing things. It would be like dragging myself to go do something. Now it's not so bad. Like, now it's just like, okay, well, here are those feelings, whatever. So like, just keep thinking of that, of like, well, gonna be nervous doing whatever. And you'll eventually get used to those feelings, so it's not a big deal. Always celebrate along the way. So in line with that is, I used to wait to celebrate things until I accomplished the thing. Like, I've always been a very like goal-oriented person, and so I would be like, okay, well, when that time comes and I get that thing, then I'm going to celebrate. That's very unfulfilling, because once you get the thing, it's like, okay, and then you're on to the next, and you're just like, all right. Like, it's really, has that happened to anyone before, where you like were so zoned in and keened on accomplishing something, and then you did it and you're just like, all right. And that's because we are not celebrating like the small wins along the way and spreading out our dopamine. Like, when we do accomplish something and we have that huge massive dopamine hit, then we have a major burnout crash afterwards. And then it takes us a while to get to the next thing. But what you can do is celebrate all the time, all the way through, every day, and say like, I'm so proud of myself for doing whatever it is towards that thing today. And then like, you start to learn to like, you start to learn that you're already successful. Like, if you push success to another day, that day will never come. Like, I have been through that cycle, and I never reached it. even when I owned a business, went to school, had a child, like all of these major pivotal points in my life, until I started celebrating myself along the way and saying like I'm already successful because I'm doing all these things every day, like micro shifting my way there. I never thought I was successful. I'm like, well, I have to do this, and okay, well, great, well, now I have this. Okay. Yeah, I'm like, why did I freak out about this? Yeah, that makes complete sense. Yeah, you really have to, like, even if you don't have like a necessarily like hard set goal that you're working on, like if you start to do things like I'm successful because I brushed my teeth today. I'm successful because I took a shower. I'm successful, like, if you don't drink a gallon of water and you say like, dang, I didn't drink as much water as I wanted to, and you're coming at it from like a negative vibration, if you say like, I drank 8 ounces of water today, I'm so proud of me. Like, go me, hydrating queen, okay? That is going to give you fuel to do the things. If you have, and I use this example a lot, when I used to do, you're calling me out. That's a good one, Lucy, making short-term goals. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in the next thing I have, making short-term goals along the way of the like quote unquote big goal, right? Like not putting so much weight in the goal, because then you're going to not feel fulfilled when you do the big goal. It's just going to be another thing. So like if you have a to-do list of 15 things, I used to not get all 15 things done and be like, what's wrong with you? Like, you can't even like do 15 things in a day. Like, just like berate myself. So Abraham Hicks, if anybody knows her, she's wonderful. She's I don't even know what you would call her, just a beautiful human being. Galactic being. I was going to say coach, but she's not. She's a spiritual healer, a teacher. She said, where you leave something vibrationally is where you pick it back up. So if you have a to-do list with 15 things and you berate yourself on that, you're not going to pick it up in a positive vibration the next time. You're going to equate that to-do list with stress and anxiety, and then it's always going to cause you stress and anxiety. Or like manifesting with money. So if you're trying to manifest money and you're always thinking about how stressed out it makes you and how like the more negative things, when you manifest money, you're going to get more negative things because you're leaving it in that space. And so now what I do when I have a to-do list, I'm like, heck yeah, I got 3 things done on this to-do list. Like, I'm awesome. I'm a rock star. Like, and I have so many days ahead of me to get more of these things done. And I roll them over. And that gives me an immense amount of fuel to keep going. I'm like, heck yeah, I'm so excited to do those other things because they give me, celebration and teach me that I'm successful, and they give me fuel, and like it feels so good to get things done on my list. And like that is a whole different frequency. Thank you for the follows. I appreciate that. Whole different frequency. It makes you want to do things. You berating yourself and saying like, what's wrong with you? You only got 3 things down on this list. That's what is going to keep happening. So celebrate yourself along the way. And sub-bullets is my next thing that has changed my life. Sub-bullets. So like if you have a list of things, like let's say that you have a goal that you're working on. Somebody give me a goal in the comments, like a goal. Any type of goal that you're working on currently. I'll give everybody a moment. It can be for whatever. It can be like, okay, clean the house. Let's take clean the house. I like that one. Or start a business. We'll do start a business and clean the house. Okay, so if you have clean the house up here, if you just have clean the house on your list, it's very difficult to get that done because it's so overwhelming. Because it's like so much. Okay, so what I tell people is when you have something like that, make sub-bullets. Like I'm gonna wash dishes. I'm going to clean the counters. I am going to do 1 load of laundry. And that can even be broken down into more sub-bullets, like put it in the washing machine, put it in the dryer, fold the clothes, put them away. Okay, so then you're making it more manageable. And then, like we talked about before in the previous one, of celebrating yourself, when you mark those off, it gives you a huge dopamine spike. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of myself for washing the dishes. And then that gives you the fuel to go to the next sub bullet. Anything in life can be done this way, and it is so much more manageable. Like if you start a business, you're going to do like research different websites, research domain names, research taxes. Like there's so many sub bullets that you can make, and you just go a little bit at a time. If you come at it that way, you're giving yourself so much fuel every time that you mark something off the list. Like I'm telling you, it's wildly different if you start doing this, and you can do it with anything. Doesn't matter what it is. Sub bullets have been my best friends. And break it down as far as you possibly can, because sometimes we'll have something like, if you have clean a house, you'll have 100 different sub bullets. But if you're looking at it as like one big old thing, that's very discouraging. Okay, and you'll end up not doing it. But if you break it down this way, then you have very clear direction on where to head, right? I'm going to read some of these comments. Yes, lists, because I hop all over the place. Sub-bullets break things down into manageable bites. I cannot stress that enough. Like, because that's oftentimes where we get tripped up and don't do the things that we want to because we think there's too many steps. Break it down, and there might be 100 steps, but now you have like very clear directions. Okay, well, I'm going to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and don't berate yourself for not doing them all right now. Just what can I do today? Ask yourself that with everything. What can I do today? And then when you start that snowball of progress and forward movement, the things start getting bigger and you start doing more things. Like for me, I needed to clean off my porch for like 2 years, and I put it off because it was extremely overwhelming. And I was just like, I'll do it later, I'll do it later, I'll do it later. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes. And I'm just going to do it for 10 minutes. That's it. Only 10 minutes. And then I ended up cleaning it for 2 hours because I was already up and moving. And then I celebrated myself. And even though I didn't finish, I was like, oh my gosh, look at me. I got 2 hours of work done on this porch. And I feel awesome. And I'm a rock star. And I've set out 10 minutes. And I did the 10 minutes. And then I did extra time too. So you see how that's like way lighter and much more easier to like handle. Yes, loving sub bullets. I liked managing I like time managing because my goal is to spend more time with my son. Oh, that's so sweet. See, like it really traverses into all areas of your life. Like when you start doing that in one area and you see how effective that is, you'll do it everywhere. Like with everything. I make sub bullets, and I have ADHD, so I have to do this. Like it's just to live. Okay, I have sub bullets for like getting back with my friends on text messages. Like I'll have I'll start with different people's names and then cross them off. Or I'll have different areas in my home that need to be cleaned and cross them off, or things I need to do for my dogs and cross them off, or things for work and cross them off, and do sub bullets in all areas of my life. And it has been a game changer. Okay. You're great at this motivation. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, bullet journaling has helped me a ton. Yeah, it's amazing. Highly recommend. Okay, so I have 3 more things. Okay, so the next one is embracing being different. So this is for my ADHD people, multi-passionalites, people who can't stick to something and just keep moving on to the next thing. So this was really difficult for me. One, because I didn't know I had ADHD. Yes. You say you love this one. Multi-passionalites. If this is your first time hearing about this is, you have a hobby of learning about new things. Like that's your hobby. It's not actually like following through with things. It's about learning a little bit about everything. Like that is literally your hobby. Yes, I do that every day, hence the tattoo. So weird. Oh, I love that. Yeah, like that's your hobby. And like some of the greatest innovators of all time, like Nikola Tesla, Steve Jobs, like all these people, like they're successful because they don't fit into the box of society. Like they said, I'm going to take a little bit here, 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 and then make something completely new that nobody has ever seen before. And sometimes, like with me and my like spiritual practice and my spiritual business, I used to beat myself up all the time because I'm like, dang, I can't stick to one thing. That's not what I'm meant to do. Like the type of sessions that I do with people are a blend of like 100 different things. But people want that. Like the people that I work with, they want the type of healing that I offer because it's so different from what everybody else is doing. And not everybody, like there's other people obviously that do that too. But it's a blend of so many different things. Or like whatever you do in your life is probably a blend of different things, putting them together. And I tell people what is meant to stay in your life will stay in your life or come back around. Like me, I wanted to learn Reiki. Here we go, you're doing it. I wanted to learn Reiki, and I couldn't conceptualize it. Like I did not understand it. Like I literally just was like, I don't get this. And so I was like, well, I'll let it go for now, and if it's meant to come back, it'll come back. And then a year later, here it is again, and then I'm like, oh my god, I understand this. Right? But there's the way that our neural networking is for people with ADHD, multi-passionalites, right, is that sometimes you have to learn about something else that seems unrelated to understand this concept. Like, yeah, like our brain works in like layeral learning. And so you don't have to stick to something. That's what society says you have to do. Or like niche down. Like I'm not saying not to niche, because there is some like great things about that. But like my content, if you look at my page, I am all over the place. Like I do Reiki, I do like talk about the Akashic Records and soul contracts, I talk about psychology stuff, I talk about like ASMR, I talk about just a whole slew of things. And a lot of times people will be like, oh, well, if you do that, it's going to be very confusing for people and they're not going to know what you do and all this stuff. Like, I don't have that problem. The people that resonate with what I do, like, I love people that are all over the place. Like, I love people that are just, like, talking about 50 million different things, because that's how I do. Right? Like, I love listening to podcasts where people are just talking about a million different things, because it's keeping me interested, right? When you are doing things, you need to do things for you, and the people that resonate with it will find you, right? Like, they will. I'm all over the show. Nope, it's not. I get you. Love ASMR, EDM, or EDMR, Reiki, and some good motivation. Yeah, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, like, my people found me, even though I don't niche down necessarily. And a conversation with me goes 17 different directions, and I always come back around. Yeah, like, there is not enough representation of people with, like, that are divergent in society, so we feel isolated and like we can't be successful for being that way. But it doesn't make sense, because most of the people that are wildly successful in life are divergent. And that's how we have innovation and keep society moving forward. Because, like, otherwise everything would be the same, right? Okay. But I want you to really take away from this, you can have a hobby of just learning about new things and becoming like a very wise being. And that's how we help people too. And that's how you become very good at pattern recognition. And that's oftentimes like people who are divergent or multi-passionalite see reality in a much different view, much different way, because you have a wider scope of perception. Okay, exactly. We feel lost in our own world is because we are doing it to ourselves and have no idea why. Yes. We got to break out of those boxes and those constructs that society is trying to put us in. Okay, so the next one is manifesting feelings and intuition. So with manifesting, visualization is wonderful. Like, we love that. Like, and that's an important piece of manifesting. But what I have learned along my way is that it's not about the thing. Doesn't matter about the thing. Like, whatever you're trying to manifest, like, at the end of the day, what is underneath that with feelings and emotions? Like, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. What is underneath that? Like, for me, I was trying to manifest a new home. It wasn't really about the home. It's like what the home would bring me. Like feelings of safety, security, like openness, expansiveness, freedom, joy, more, energetic space. Okay. And when you focus on those things instead, the universe will bring you more of that and things you didn't even ask for. Like, then you're just telling the universe, I want more of like these feelings. And so you start getting that in all areas of your life instead of just the one thing you were trying to manifest. Because you're telling the universe, I want to be on a different level of life altogether. Instead of just being like, well, no, I just want to manifest a house. Like, that's great. We love that. But we want to up level in all areas and be in those vibrational states more, right? I just always think of the material, not the feeling. You can interject material. It doesn't matter about the material because what's included in those feelings is the material thing. Like, of course the universe knows that you want a new house. Like, you're one with source. Like, of course they know that you want a nice car or you want whatever it is you want in life, physical health, right? But why not open it up even wider and say, like, I want more joy, peace, serenity, and happiness, and everything that comes included with that. Like a smorgasbord of wonderful things in my life. And when you focus on the feelings and the emotions, that is way, way, way more fuel than visualizing the material thing. Because when you're visualizing the material thing, your ego comes in and is like, well, how are you going to do this? And how are you going to do that? And all of this stuff. And the what's in the hows catch you up, and then your logical mind takes all the fuel away from your manifestation. But if you say, I want more joy, peace, serenity, happiness, love, all those things, that's a lot easier to manifest. And sometimes people are like, well, I don't know what it's going to feel like when my manifestation comes through because I don't have it. You don't need to. Have you ever felt joy before? Have you ever felt happiness? Have you ever felt peace in your life? Think about those things. Like, maybe it's the birth of your child, or you getting married, or you graduating from school. We want more of that feeling. And the universe will include your wants in your search of more of that vibration. You don't have to get so specific. And it is important to like visualize. I'm not saying don't visualize, but like back it up with, this is how I feel now. I would love even more of this, because we can always feel joy, peace, serenity, and happiness in the here and now. Think about times in your life where you felt those and then embody it right this second. And then now you're in a good space to think about your house that you want to bring in. If that makes sense. And then you're not worried about the whys and the hows and the whats. Because you're like, oh, well, I felt joy and peace and serenity before, so I can feel that about the house. Right? Okay. But feelings and emotions. That is what you want to focus on. Okay, the last one. This is in search of your soul purpose. I work with clients all the time. They're like, what is my soul purpose? What am I supposed to be doing here? Why did I incarnate here? I feel like I'm not going to be fulfilled until I figure out what that thing is. So this is my opinion, and use your discernment and your intuition with this, but you are your soul purpose. There is a time where I was searching, and then one day I woke up and I was like, you know what? I am my soul purpose wherever I go. Whatever I do, doesn't matter. Like, what my happiness and my joy in this incarnation is my soul purpose. So anything that I do that feels in alignment right now is my purpose. And I'll give you an example. So I used to own a doggy daycare, like it was my purpose. Like I love dogs so much. Like anybody knows me, I have a lot of dogs, but I love dogs so much, and I love that daycare, and that was my sole purpose. Then it changed, and that wasn't my sole purpose anymore. And my sole purpose was to help people and help encourage them and make them feel confident and secure in themselves and secure in their reality and help them timeline shift and do energy healing and like all these things. But that doesn't mean that that purpose that I had before overrides or is, you know, better than the one I'm in now. But it's not about what's externally happening. It's my purpose is me wherever I go and whatever I do. And so when I said that, I stopped actively searching for something outside of myself. And I was just like, I'm going to do whatever makes me happy, and that's it. That is my purpose. That also helped me accept myself because I am a multi-passionalite and, you know, have ADHD and just all over the place and doing a million different things. I don't beat myself up about that anymore. I just be like, that's exactly right, Lucy. We all evolve along the way. You are not the same person that you were 10 or 20 years ago. So why would your sole purpose be the same all the way through? Like you might have like a very deep core purpose of like wanting to help people and like the collective shift. And like, that's great. Like maybe that's why you came here, but that can look like so many different things. And like, why would you close the window of opportunity and experiences because you're like, no, it has to be this. Because that was me. I went to school for psychology and I was like, I'm going to be a clinical psychologist because I want to help people and I want to help myself. And I was hell bent on making myself go to 150 years of school. And I didn't really want to do that. But I was like, that's the only way I can help people. And I was miserable. And then when I finally let that go and I was like, you know what? Maybe I could find another way to help people that doesn't require $100,000 and for me to go to 1 billion years of school. And so I let it go. And then I did a whole bunch of other stuff, right? That didn't seem like it was correlated to where I'm at right now. And then now look at me now. Like I found my way because my deep personality is I love helping people. But that looked like so many different things throughout my life. Like helping people with their dogs is also helping people. Like I was helping their parents have a more like harmonious life with their pets. And then I was a bartender manager and I was helping people. Like I treated those people like they were my clients. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, but treated them like they were my potential life coaching clients. And I was helping them get through like rough times in their life. Not that everybody that goes to the bar is going through a rough time, but I met a lot of people at work. And, you know, I worked at a nonprofit for a while and I worked with kids and I was helping them. So your sole purpose is whatever you are aligned with in the moment and that makes you happy. So that way you're not putting so much pressure on yourself to find something, right? Balancing is the act. It's not easy. Self is word. Yeah. Sub bullets for the balancing. Sub bullets. Eventually you'll find your purpose and self within your family structure too. Yeah. There's, that's the thing. There's no like one thing. Like there's so many different facets to your quote unquote purpose. Like part of my purpose is being a mom, right? Like, or a fur baby mom. Like there's so many different things, but if I try to like squish it into this one little thing, then I'm constricting my life and saying like, it's gotta look this one way and it can never change. And that's when people get like unhappy because they're like, oh, well, I'm in my sole purpose and it's not making me happy anymore. Shift that. Shift it. You don't have to do that forever. Like get something else that you're more aligned with. All right, let's see. Yes, I have 4 kids, so it's hard sometimes, but they are my purpose a lot of times. See, yeah, like there's so many different parts of us. It cannot be quantitated to one thing in particular. So when you switch to I am my purpose instead of like looking for something, it takes all that pressure off. and it gives you flexibility and options to change whatever you want to change. Okay, everyone, does anybody have any questions? Those are all of my 13 things that helped change my life. If you were not here for part 1, that happened yesterday, there is a link in my bio for my YouTube channel, and part 1 is up there, and then this is part 2, and this will be up later this evening if you would like to rewatch, or if you're not here for the whole one. I think of me as the wife, me, mom, me, and myself, me. Yeah, we wear a lot of different hats. I have to remind myself that too. Like, sometimes we get like so wrapped up in our responsibilities, if that makes sense, that we forget that we're like an individual person. Like, sometimes I'll be like, I'm a mom, or I'm a business owner, or, you know, like whatever, and I'm like, oh yeah, then there's just like individual me who's like not those things, right? Something that's been really helping me recently is to detach from my reality momentarily. Like, if I'm trying to do a meditation or some type of like fun activity, to stop worrying about all of the things that are going on in my 3D scape, is to say, I don't know who Brittany is. And like, don't do this if you have depersonalization issues. Okay, like, I'm not a medical doctor, like, I want to state that. So if you have problems disassociating, it's not for you. But if you don't have things like that, I say, I don't know who Brittany is. I don't know what Soul Harmony Magic business is. Like, I don't have my home. Like, I'm detached from that for right now, and what I am is I'm a soul that's enjoying this experience that I'm in right now. And when those things start to come up, like, what about this, and what about that, and what about this, and what about that, I don't know her, and I don't know those things. That's not me right now. It has significantly helped. Like, significantly. I don't know her, because I'm Brittany right now, like, right? But if you believe in incarnation, like, there are so many other different pieces and facets of me from different places, and I have an oversoul, and like, I don't have to be super intermeshed into this. Again, like an observer. I'm not saying to like detach all the time. Like, we don't want to detach from our reality and not enjoy our time here, but momentarily sometimes you can just let go and say, I'm gonna go to like, in a month I'm gonna go to like an EDM show. I'm gonna detach. I'm gonna say, I'm a soul right now that's enjoying my time and having fun and dancing and laughing and being joyful. I don't know any of that stuff. Job, people and places I gotta take care of, all those things. Like, who's that? It has really, really helped. Or if I go on a walk outside and I start thinking and getting stressed, I'm like, what am I stressed about? Nothing. I don't have those responsibilities. You can do that for 20 minutes. Okay. I call it the put the phone down after 6 p.m. rule. I love that. Love that. I need to start implementing that. Okay. Well, thank you everyone that came to this healing space. I appreciate you very much. We're all out here raising the collective consciousness together, helping ourselves individually and each other. I appreciate all the comments. I tell my kids that. I love that. If you need help or support with some of the things that I was talking about, or if you are in a place in life where you are experiencing a lot of anxiety, depression, you've had a lot of trauma in life, and you're trying to shift your vibration, shift your frequency, move into a different reality space, timeline shift, right? I do offer individual sessions that help you figure out the next stages on your journey. I do trauma healing. I help you look at your soul contract and figure out, you know, more in depth what's going on in your life, especially if you're dealing with like behavioral patterns or people in your life who are narcissists. If you're an empath or a light worker and need help mitigating your energy. I also have a coaching program where I help people who are ADHD and also spiritual beings. I help them if you need help on a weekly basis to get towards your goals. So maybe you want to start a coaching practice, maybe you just want to be less anxious, or you have some like trauma healing that you need to do, but I do offer that as well, and there